This is question 52, Deputy Catherine Connolly.
Catherine, and my question specifically relates to a report, and I'm asking you the status of the National Strategic Plan for Sustainable Agricultural Development 21 to 30. Where is that plan? Has it been published? If not, when will it be published? And what are the reasons for the delay?
Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Connolly. And in December 2022, I approved the National Strategic Plan for Sustainable Aquaculture Development, and that followed a public consultation and subsequent refinement as well of it. The plan establishes a vision for Irish aquaculture up to 2030, which reflects the common direction set out in the EU's strategic guidelines for more sustainable and competitive EU aquaculture for that period. It visualises a sustainable, profitable, competitive and market-focused aquaculture industry, making maximum long-term economic and social contribution to coastal communities and the country as a whole, while optimising environmental performance and supporting the natural capital upon which it depends. The sector maintains a competitive advantage through low-impact production, whilst building commercial resilience through technical innovation and diversification. This in turn supports a more diverse consumer and market base, aligned to increased recognition of Irish aquaculture's growing status as a key provider of sustainable, low-carbon and healthy food. To realise the ambition, Deputy Connolly, 4 high-level objectives have been established, including firstly, building the resilience and competitiveness of the sector; secondly, participating in the green transition; thirdly, ensuring social acceptance and also consumer information; and fourthly, increasing knowledge and innovation. And under these objectives, we have a total of 58 actions which have been developed. And these actions include, but aren't limited to, supporting, for example, the rollout of a user-friendly online aquaculture licensing and information system, Aquamis as otherwise known; also supporting the development of designated marine area plans for the inclusion of aquaculture; increased focus on fish welfare; more vigilant and responsive monitoring of aquatic diseases and food safety risks; supporting innovation, providing coordinated messaging on the sustainable low-carbon nature of Irish aquaculture and production; and also developing a comprehensive human capacity plan for Irish aquaculture. The plan has been through a process to ensure its publication ready and accessible to all stakeholders, and is due to be brought before Government and published before the end of Q2 this year, Deputy Connolly.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Connolly.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for the clarification that the report is to be published at the end of Q2. The other plan ran out nearly 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and you still haven't given me an explanation for the delay in publishing this plan, and it's very difficult to follow it. I took a particular interest in seaweed when I came in here, and so did my colleagues, and a motion was passed by the majority of the Dáil, recognising the absence of any policy, a sustainable policy for the seaweed industry. That was 2018, we're now in 23, and I have all of this before me, and I'm desperately trying to get my head around reports. And so the plan hasn't been published yet, and you're now saying it will be published at the end of the quarter. And then we have this plan for BIM that is published since May, and they're referring to the national plan that hasn't been published yet. So it's a little bit bewildering for me, and I'm well able to read and get my head around it, but I haven't even to get where are we going with this, and I get very worried in terms of the ongoing model of development based on profit, but that's an argument for another day.
Minister.
Yeah, no, I take your point and the sense of urgency in relation to actually finalising the publication of the report. And to say it is going to be published by end of this quarter, Deputy Connolly. In the meantime, we have seen significant supports and work in relation to supporting the development of the aquaculture sector. I announced in July of last year a €20 million sustainable aquaculture growth scheme, which is providing stimulus for aquaculture businesses to grow and meet growing demand for Irish seafood. Also, the Department's MFAF seafood development programme was adopted by the European Commission in December past, and that funding provides for public interest projects of benefit to aquaculture, as well as direct supports as well to the industry, facilitating the realisation of the National Strategic Plan. But I absolutely accept, Deputy Connolly, the urgency of having this published. I take on board the point you're making in relation to the length of time this has taken. We want to see it concluded, and that will be done and published by the end of Q2.
I welcome that, and indeed I welcome the work of your predecessor, sorry, not your predecessor, but the former Minister English in the Department of Housing in relation to seaweed. Now, my difficulty is we have a BIM report actually referring and outlining a report that hasn't even been published, that we haven't read. That's one difficulty. The second difficulty is we're operating in a vacuum, and we know the Friends of the Environment have drawn to our attention allegations in relation to unsustainable harvesting of seaweed down in the Kenmare Special Area of Conservation. I'm wondering if you've had any interaction with the Department of Housing in relation to that, and seaweed being caught unsustainably by a company. And I mention that because we know this for a long time, that there's a vacuum in policy and legislation, particularly in the area of seaweed and wool, which have huge significance and possibilities for sustainable development and going forward with transformative action on the west coast of Ireland, from Donegal down to Kerry. And yet we're going from report to report, difficulty finding them, delays in publishing them, and a vacuum in existence. And it's very difficult and frustrating when we see the possibilities and we're being told about the possibilities. And I mention wool as well because the Junior Minister is beside you. These are wonderful, positive opportunities.
Last word to the Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Connolly. I'll check with my department to see if there's been any engagement on that particular issue around seaweed in that location, and ask them to revert to you directly. But listen, thanks for raising it today. I think our aquaculture sector doesn't get enough recognition or enough discussion here in the Chamber, or indeed recognition in wider society either, in relation to its potential. Obviously, you're absolutely right, it has to be done in a way that's sustainable, that integrates with the environment around it and fully accounts for that. And that is the objective of the new strategy as well. So I look forward to its publication at the end of Q2, and then to building on its potential from there on. Thanks.
Next question.